Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to a very special edition of the Hawksbeat podcast, the NBA preview edition of the Hawksbeat podcast, man. So come on in, come on in. We got a live show for you this evening. As you can see, my wife has the Christmas decorations up, man. I got a Christmas tree here in front of my booth, and everything. But 'tis the season. I hope that you all are doing well this evening. And I want to wish a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays to all of you guys out there. We have a special guest that's going to be coming on with us this evening. And today we're going to be previewing the Miami Heat. So if you guys know any Miami Heat folks or Miami Heat fans, let them know. Come on in. We about to talk some Miami Heat basketball today. I know this is normally an Atlanta Hawks podcast, but I want to go around the East and kind of see and kind of get a feel for how the other teams are feeling about their teams. You know, here in Atlanta, of course, again, for those who may have stumbled onto the podcast, I cover the Atlanta Hawks, and a lot of people are very excited about the moves that have been made in free agency, the moves that have been made in the draft, and then, so they're excited. But here's the thing. A lot of fans don't realize that other teams get better too, right? They get better. And one of these teams is definitely the Miami Heat. We're going to talk about them. We have a guy coming on today, and he is going to give us the ins and the outs about the Miami Heat. So it should be a fun episode. Stay tuned. And before he comes on, I want to give some housekeeping out of the way. A lot of what we do is on the social media front. So let me see if I can get my ticker going. So boom, let me see if I can get my ticker going. There it goes. Boom. So if you are on the Twitter or if you are on Instagram, make sure you give Hawksbeat a follow. We are at Hawksbeat. You can just go ahead and make sure you give us a follow. We'll follow you back in most cases in case, make sure just to make sure you ain't crazy or nothing. No, we'll follow you back. But so make sure you guys follow us there on the Twitters. And what was I going to say next? The podcast. We got a podcast that we do. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. Nowadays, there's so many different platforms, and so you can subscribe there. And, of course, the YouTube. We're really trying to push our YouTube content this year. And make sure you follow us on YouTube as well. Subscribe there. And we about to get it rocking, get it rolling, man. So if you are a fan of the Miami Heat, you should enjoy today's podcast. I got my co-host coming in. And I believe I got rid of all the particulars. But if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them if we can. And let's bring them on, man. So let me see if I can work my little magic there. There it goes.
What's going on?
How are you doing, sir?
I'm trying to tweet out the link to this. I'm sorry, I'm late. I'm on CP time, brother. You know how it go.
Hey, man, it's all good, man. I just, there you go. You got it. So, yeah. So we are excited to having you on, man. Thanks for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it.
I'm mad that, honestly, I would have sat in a different seat so I had the festive Christmas background. You ain't even warn me. You didn't warn me that we were doing the Christmas tree. You got the chimney with the stocking. Yeah, man, if I had known.
I even got one for my dog, man. We doing the big today, man.
You making me look bad.
My wife got everything all set up, and I was like, "Look, man, I'm gonna record here, so we just gonna make it work, I'm
about to ask my lady to put a wreath behind me, just
Gotta get in the spirit, man. First of all, give me the pronunciation of your first name.
Alphonse.
Okay. I knew it was kind of spelled phonetically, man. But again, welcome on to the show, man. We're gonna be talking a little Miami Heat today. And before you came on, man, the purpose of why I'm doing this is because I cover the Hawks. This is gonna be year 7 for me. Covering the Hawks, but I want to kind of go around and get a feel for some of the other teams, because traditionally when you're in a city, when you hear from the towns and you get locked into Miami Heat Twitter or Atlanta Hawks Twitter, you think that you're the only one that got better.
It's a bubble. It's a bubble, man.
So I was like, man, let me go around and talk to some folks in the East and check in with different cities and see how that's going. But first and foremost, man, tell us a little bit about the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And I believe you're part of 2 podcasts, right?
Yeah, I'm part of 2 podcasts.
Okay.
Honestly, the reason I'm late is because I was recording Light Skinned Opinions.
Okay.
Which is it's a joke about colorism, but we don't have to go into that tonight. You know what I'm saying? You got Atlanta fans; they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's Light Skinned Opinions is a political pop culture, a little bit of sports. We talk about just about everything. Half our show is about relationships. And cash bars at weddings today. So
yeah.
I was late because of that show. We recorded tonight, and then I'm also part of 5 on the Floor, which is a Miami Heat podcast on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, with Ethan Skolnick, Alex Toledo, and Greg Sylvander. We're a little bit of everything, analysis, insight. Ethan and Greg have all the sources in the world, so they're on top of all the different trade rumors and free agency rumors and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of cover the entire, gambit. So I'm there as I'm super fan guy. Like I don't care about analytics. I don't care about any of that stuff. I do a little bit, but I'm super fan. I'm eye test guy. That's kind of like my role on the show. So.
Yeah.
You
gotta have balance, man. You gotta have balance,
Yeah. We have a really good balance on the show. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
That's what's up, man. I listened to a couple of y'all's pods, man. You guys do good work, man. So keep up the good work, man. Keep it up. What's the weather like down there in Miami today, man?
Man, it's a frigid 61 degrees right now, brother.
Gosh.
Frigid. I had a light hoodie on today for the first time in months.
Oh my gosh, man! I don't see how you're bearing it, man. It was now in Atlanta. It got up in around the 50s today, but it was a nice 30s. We had some nice frost in the morning, so
we started burning furniture out here.
Yeah, so it's all good. I'm originally from Florida. I'm originally from Tampa, so I know all about the sun and everything. But we're gonna get into it, man. Let's get in this Miami Heat talk, man. So let's start from last year, man. The bubble run, of course. That make the run to the finals, man. Just tell me about that whole experience, man. Just was the city buzzing? Well, probably not because during COVID, but buzzing with mask on. Just talk about that run a little bit in the bubble, man, and kind of define the odds last year with the Miami Heat.
Well, it's funny, man. I'm very romantic about this last the bubble run. More romantic than I am about most things when it comes to sports. I'm kind of just like it's fun, it's whatever it is. I don't really put a lot of stock into how it lifts a community. But what I will say is that this year, this Miami Heat team lifted this community. Okay, because one of the things that's infamous about the Miami Heat, if you're from Miami, is that the games and like the lower bowl atmosphere is for the elite, right? So we get clowned a lot because on national TV, and the Hawks get clowned too. I lived in Atlanta for 2 years, okay? So I know.
What it is.
And we get the empty arena stuff. But if they ever panned up into the 300 and 400 levels, it ain't empty. It's rocking, right? But the elites get that 100 level because it's in Miami. It's a place to be seen. It's cool. You know what I mean? The Kevin Hart and Drake and Diddy and, The Rock, they're all down there hanging out. So we get that, and we get the stigma of bad fandom because, our arenas are empty during games. What happened during COVID is there was no delineation between the people that could pay for the 100 level and the people that can afford the 400 level and the people that just can't afford to go to the games at all. Yeah. So we were all the same fan base for the entire bubble run. And it was unifying in that effect. You know what I mean? So we all watched it with the same anticipation. So it was one, and the team really reflected real Miami for the first time in a long time since the Keith Askins Alonzo
Old
Mourning
school.
days.
They don't know about Keith Askins, man.
They don't know about,
Keith
what I mean? A
Askins.
lot of fans, there's a lot of big three fans.
Sherman Douglas. They don't know about them cats,
Yes,
man.
the general. So there's a lot of people that don't know what real Miami Heat basketball is all about. And we lost. I'm not going to say we lost our way during the big 3 years.
Yeah.
It just became more about showtime and more about flashiness. This Heat team reflected real Miami. It reflected Overtown, Carroll City. It reflected Broward. It reflected Palm Beach. It reflected South Florida more than any team in a long time. And it headed up by Jimmy Butler, who was just Miami Heat through and through. It's like, he's Udonis Haslam personified with more athletic ability. You know what I mean? So this team became so much a part of what we were going through COVID, and they lifted us.
Yeah.
And they gave us something to anticipate where we were down because we're a COVID center of the entire country. So it gave us something to anticipate every other day they were playing a game. You know what I'm saying? They kept us going. And honestly, it's like, so they really we attached ourselves to this team, and it became the great equalizer of South Florida for a few months where we were all on this bandwagon, man. Like we were riding this out. So a lot of people don't realize we couldn't go to the games, and maybe nationally the ratings were down, but in Miami and South Florida, the ratings were through the roof. Like we love this team, like this became our team. It's going to go down as one of the most favorite Heat teams in history, even though they didn't win a title.
I want to ask you, do you think that there is a way? Because I used to pull. I'm a big Allen Iverson fan, right? So all throughout high school, I was always pulling for the Sixers. And I remember when they got to the finals, and when they went up against that Shaq and Kobe Lakers team, I knew they had no clue. They got that one win, and to me, that was like Moses at the mountaintop. You know what I'm saying? Like they got the one. We kind of felt good about that. Do you feel that there is a way that they could have won that series, or do you feel that they kind of maxed out everything they had and they just weren't going to beat the Lakers?
If Goran Dragic was healthy and you had a healthy Bam Adebayo, you're at least talking about a 7-game series, in my opinion. They had, once Goran Dragic was not able to play, and Bam Adebayo was limited, they had no chance. And the only thing that carried us to to carry the Heat to 6 games was a Herculean effort by Jimmy Butler, almost reminiscent of Dwayne Wade in 2006 with some of the performances he put up. But one thing Jimmy Butler is he's not Dwayne Wade. He's not. He's always been the guy that's going to lift other guys around him. It's not in his nature to put a team on his back. He's going to lift your team up, but he's not. He can't carry you to 4 wins in a 7-game series against a juggernaut like the Lakers. So once those guys went down, those guys were the heart of the team. Heart of the team throughout the playoffs. Goran Dragic is so important to what the Miami Heat do. He was their leading scorer up until the Eastern Conference Finals. Once those guys went down, we kind of all knew what was going to happen, but we believed all the way up to the very end. And no real Heat fan was mad at the ending, like you said about the Sixers. No Heat fan was mad about what happened at the end. We just said, let's go back and get better this year.
Yeah, I mean, you get there, you're kind of playing with house money. And I had the utmost respect for this Miami Heat team. I went on a radio show with one of my buddies, and I was like, Lakers in 6. And he like giggled at me, like, you're giving them 2 games? Like, yeah, I'm giving them 2 games. Like, they got some shooters. I really like Jimmy Butler. And, like, very rarely do I get predictions right. Like, very rarely do I get them right. But I hit that one on the button. I was beating my chest for a little bit. But big fan of Jimmy Butler, man. I kind of want to move to him before we get to this roster. Jimmy's just a different guy, man. Like, folks don't understand. Like, Jimmy's just a different guy. I was watching the Miami Heat media availability this week, and somebody asked Jimmy about how he felt, and Jimmy was like, "You don't care. Like, you don't care. Like, for real." But like, that's just Jimmy. Jimmy just walks with this chip on his shoulder, and he don't mind the chip on the shoulder because he's Jimmy Butler, man. But talk to me about Jimmy Butler and kind of like what you guys are expecting in year 2 for Jimmy. If you're going to go back and look at his history in Minnesota, that's year when things kind of went wrong, and he only had the 1 year in Philly. Year 2, what does it look like? What do you think it's going to look like for you, for Jimmy Butler?
Well, first of all, and it's going to sound blasphemous for some people, but I've said it on five on the floor 1,000 times. Jimmy Butler is the most perfect superstar for the Miami Heat in Miami Heat history. Now, is he the biggest superstar? Is he the best player in Heat history? No. Dwayne Wade is the best player in Miami Heat history, without a doubt. But there's not a single player that embodies the Miami Heat mindset outside of Udonis Haslem than Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler is like a godsend for this organization because he is just like a walking billboard of what happens when you can completely buy in. He went from this guy who had this terrible reputation all over the league to a guy now that people are saying you don't trade him for James Harden. Like there was a whole argument on Twitter the other day, like, would the Miami Heat trade Jimmy Butler for James Harden? And 90% of the people were like, hell no, they wouldn't. So Jimmy Butler is a perfect fit for the Miami Heat. He's a dog with the dog mentality. From Eric Spoelstra to Pat Riley, the entire organization, they love what he brings to the table. So going forward in the next year, what I really want to see for Jimmy, and it's going to sound, I want to see him get some rest at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I don't want him burned out for the playoffs. I would like to see them be able to hold their own without him. And it's going to be very hard to tell Jimmy Butler to take some nights off. It's just not in his nature. But he's going to have to take some nights off. But do I see his personality becoming a problem with this team? Hell no. No, not at all. He's this is his team, and he's grooming Bam Adebayo to be the next Jimmy Butler, and so is Udonis Haslem, and that's their whole goal. Jimmy Butler, this is his team, and he's not going anywhere.
I saw that. Well, I always enjoy kind of the relationship between Jimmy and Bam because Jimmy has such an utmost respect when he speaks about Bam. Just such a young guy to have Jimmy speak of you with such amazement and such honor. It's funny because he never talked about that to Cat or like to Wiggins. What I'm saying? He talked dirty about them cats, but it's good to see them two meshing. The old and the young together.
But it's not just Bam.
Yeah.
It's every guy on that team. Either a lot of guys got shipped out this year. One of my favorite players, Justice Winslow, is gone. Dion Waiters, Hassan Whiteside, James Johnson. There's a lot of guys with big contracts that the Heat trusted, and they got shipped out this year. The guys who are left all believe in the same things Jimmy Butler believes in. Mm-hmm. So it's not just Bam. I mean, he loves Tyler Hero like a little brother. And these guys all got dog in them, and that's the thing, and that's what Jimmy's been asking for this whole time. He just says, work as hard as I do, and that's all he cares about.
And we're entering into a season with COVID, something that we've never seen before. And every sports franchise, they're limping through their seasons. NFL's starting to limp through their season. College NFL's limping through their season. I don't know what the NFL will do. I'm hoping that they can get through this 72-game season. But if there is any year that you needed depth, it's this year. I could easily see guys getting touched and having to sit out. You sit out 10 days, that's almost 2 weeks of games. And then the 72
games.
Yeah. And then the 72-game season, like that. 10 days. I'm sorry, not 10 days. 10 games. 10 days.
Yeah, but, 10 games. 10 days is 6 games. And
that's a lot of games, So you don't really worry about that third point guard until like now. You're like, who's your third point guard? But I want to ask you about some of the roster moves made by the GM. I want to look at the guys going out. Jay Crowder, Solomon Hill, D. Jones Jr. Those are the guys going out. Your guy Solomon Hill is actually here in Atlanta now. Spoke with him on Saturday. He's a really charismatic guy. Vet.
We loved him.
Glad to have him in the fold. What are you missing with these three guys as they move out? And then I'm going to ask you about the guys coming in just a moment.
All right. Well, Crowder, you're missing a guy who was able to come in and replace a real starting center in Myers Leonard. But what he did was create a spacer on the floor that would shoot threes, and nobody expected him to shoot 36, 37%. He did, but nobody expected him to do that. What was cool was just that he was going to shoot them. And for him to shoot like that, it created space for Bam Adebayo to work in the middle of the floor. One thing about Myers Leonard, he's a better shooter than Jay Crowder, but he's not as willing of a shooter. So that what happens is his gravity is not what Jay Crowder's is. So Jay Crowder came in and he just gave the Heat something on offense, and then defensively he turned it up a whole nother level underneath Erik Spoelstra. Mm-hmm. So for the biggest loss this offseason is Jay Crowder. Mm-hmm. Just because he bought into the culture, he wanted to be here. But to keep him, the Heat would have to lose some of the flexibility that they've worked so hard for. And I understand what happened. It's a mutual parting of ways. I don't think there's any hard feelings either way. But Jay Crowder, I think to Heat fans, is a Heat lifer. Like, that guy will always be beloved. Solomon Hill, I liked him. Didn't give us much, and only because he was redundant in a lot of ways. I think he's going to be good wherever he goes. He's going to be a fan favorite. Like, he's just such a cool guy. Like, if you can get him on your show. You said you talked to him already?
Yeah, they had a media availability on Saturday, and he's just like, he's just a great guy. I mean, you know how when you speak to certain guys, some guys they hit it, some guys they don't. You know, he hits it.
Yeah, man, he's just a great person. Like, he went on a show, a podcast I used to be on, Miami Heat Beat. And he talked about anime for an hour. Like, he's just an awesome guy. When it comes to Derrick Jones Jr., what they're missing with him is a point of attack defender. That's one of the Heat's sore spots. Point guards tore them up. Derrick Jones Jr. could sit there. We saw him lock down Trae Young a couple times last season. Problem is, on offense, you don't have to guard him. So that was a problem with Derrick Jones Jr. We're going to miss him down here in Miami. He's a great kid, slam dunk champ. But, you know, there's only so much money to go around. And honestly, he played himself into a better contract than he could afford. Yeah, more power to him.
You got to applaud that man. He's going to have a good Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy for Derrick Jones Jr. because I've talked to him a few times in the Heat locker room. He's just a really, really good kid, a really nice guy. Like, I'm happy for him and what he was able to do.
Yeah, man, super athletic, man. Jumps out the gym, and I remember that game where he was locking up Trae. And you guys bring in some heavy hitters, man. Avery Bradley, Harkless, B.J. Johnson, Mike Strouts. Talk a little bit about some of the guys that you guys brought in.
Well, Avery Bradley is okay. So Avery Bradley, he solves a problem that Derrick Jones Jr. was trying to solve. Right? Mm-hmm. The Heat have a point of attack problem, and if anybody watched the Heat this season, they know guys like Trae Young, until you put Derrick Jones Jr. out there, was tearing them up. Like, fast, athletic point guards, guys like De'Aaron Fox, like they could not stop athletic point guards. Their point of attack defense was horrible. So Avery Bradley comes in, he kind of solves some of that, and you have to respect him in the corner. Mm-hmm. Whereas Derrick Jones Jr., you didn't have to respect him in the corner or beyond the 3-point line. Avery Bradley is not, an elite shooter by any sense of the term, but don't leave him open at the same time. It's like the Jay Crowder effect. Yeah. So you're hoping that Avery Bradley can give you the point of attack defense, almost a 3-and-D kind of thing that, a lot of teams are always looking for. Mo Harkless is kind of that wild card. Erik Spoelstra has been talking him up. I think they think that he can do a lot of the things that Jay Crowder did last year. Mm-hmm. I would like to see it. He's long. he's a decent shooter. They think he's going to be a great shooter because one thing the Heat can do is get guys open. Yeah. And Mo Harkless is going to be open a lot. Yeah. And if he's okay with pulling the trigger and shooting, he is going to be a super big asset for the Heat.
He's a vet, man. Certain guys, when they become when you've been in the league 6, 7, 8 years, you kind of are what you are. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
fine. It's fine being who you are, but expecting someone to be.
So what I'll tell you, guys who've been in the league 7, 8 years, all of a sudden they play on the Erik Spoelstra and they become a different guy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like James Johnson, Dion Waiters, like there's so many instances of guys who Jay Crowder last year.
Yeah.
Jay Crowder became an indispensable part of a finals team where he was just a journeyman before that.
Yeah.
And I've always liked Jay Crowder's game, but Eric Spoelstra has a way of getting things out of guys, and the way he's talking about Mo Harkless this year, it almost has me believe that he's going to start next to Bam Adebayo.
Okay.
Which is wild, but if he, I wouldn't put it completely out of the realm of imagination.
Let me ask you about the guards. Now that you add Avery Bradley to the mix, now you have Dragic, Robinson, Nunn, Hero, Bradley. Does it make any of these guys expendable? Do you foresee any of these guys maybe moving toward the trade deadline or anything of that nature? I mean, I haven't looked at you guys' cap situation. Do you foresee there being a problem? But I mean, again, we talked a little bit about the need for depth. I mean, is it just y'all just going to keep them 5 at the guards position, or what? What do you think?
I right now it's tough, man, because I look at it and I think that they're deep. I don't know if they have enough to win a title, right? I think they have enough to for another deep playoff run. And in a year of COVID, who knows what happens? You know what I mean? Like Jason Tatum gets COVID, who knows? I don't wish
you very well may need all 5 of those guards,
right? I don't wish ill upon anybody, but we have no idea. Honestly, like if in my heart of hearts, like I don't like the way they're setting up this season. I think they're setting themselves up for a complete disaster. Yeah. But that's just me. When it comes to of those guards, who's the most expendable? I think Kendrick Nunn is on the move. If you ask me, if you ask people that I trust, that talk to people that know things, I don't know things. I always tell people I have no sources. I'm just a fan. But the people that I know that talk to people, I think Kendrick Nunn is on the not chopping block, but he's on the trade block, right?
Yeah, there's always those guys, like when you start a season that, well, if we got to move somebody, it's going to be you.
Exactly. So if the Heat, let's say the Heat go after a guy like Oladipo, which will shore up their guard rotation tremendously, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have to give up a Kelly Olynyk, a Kendrick Nunn, and probably a first-round pick. Will that be enough? I don't know. But those, a guy like Oladipo, Kendrick Nunn is gone. That's just what you're going to expect. And what happened with Kendrick Nunn is that he got figured out very quickly as a kind of a one-dimensional player. He's not a good facilitator. He's not a good passer. He can get beat easily off the dribble despite all of his athletic abilities. So, but at the same time, his trade value is high because he can get you buckets. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking to make a move, an up and coming team who's trying to rebuild will take a Kendrick Nunn and a first round pick and some salary cap filler for, let's say, a Victor Oladipo who doesn't want to be on the Indiana Pacers anymore.
Yeah, so, I mean, Kendrick is not he's a solid rotational player. He's not no Swiss cheese, man. He can bring value to your ball club if you get him in the right situation. I want to ask you.
He can't defend though. I'm just gonna warn any fan base. Like, listen, man. I watched this guy for a year, and I love Kendrick. I talked to Kendrick, and then people were like, "Oh, Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson can't defend." I'm like, no. The Kendrick can't defend. Like I think there's a white guy thing going on there, but I'm not gonna go into that. Yeah. I do that on light skin opinions, but there's
reverse racism.
Yeah, there's a stereotype there in effect because honestly, I would much rather have Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson on the perimeter than Kendrick Nunn. When you talk about Swiss cheese, he is Swiss cheese.
Yeah, and I was reading an article from our guy Nakia Smith. And he had like a gif of Kyrie Irving playing some defense, and it looked like me in the 9th grade, man. He was like walking. His knees weren't even bent. It looked horrible, man.
Yeah,
horrible. And so some guys in the league, man, I mean, defense just ain't their thing. You know what I'm saying? There's been a big talk about Trae Young here in Atlanta and his defense. That's why you go out and get a Chris Dunn and Cam Reddish and all those.
Can I tell you something? You're on Hawksbeat.
Yes, sir.
Trae Young is the worst defender I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying. I love watching that young man play. Like, he's a fun player. That is he made Tyler Hero look like Allen Iverson. Like, he is the worst defender I've ever seen. And it hurts me because I'm light-skinned, and it perpetuates a stereotype about light-skinned people, that we're soft. But he is the worst defender I've ever seen in my life. Is that a thing in Atlanta? Like, are Hawks fans cognizant of that? Or
it depends, because you have your section of fans that you just can't say any wrong about the Hawks. You have those fans, and you have those fans that are kind of like, yeah, defense is pretty bad. And then when you bring out the metrics and show like the usage rate, like, Herter and Young were like really the bottom of the league when it came to like defensive rating last year. So it's like, it's not really even opinion. It's not really opinion. Like, even the metrics back it up. And so the hope this year, look, he's never going to make any all defensive teams. The hope this year is that by getting him some help on the offensive end, that he doesn't have to expend so much energy, not only being your leading scorer, not only being your distributor, but having to lock down, the team's point guard or whatever. You hope that it's going to get to a point where it's manageable.
Let him be Devin Booker. Put him on the other team's worst player.
Yeah, so they're hoping that it's going to get manageable and still kind of hold them to accountability. But, I mean, guys are who they are, man. They are who they are.
I have the Hawks in the playoffs this year, and I got hated on for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I think they're a 7th or 8th seed.
But here's the thing, man. The whole playoff structure has changed. I just put out a YouTube video. By the way, if you're watching this, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Appreciate that. Talking about the number of wins for the Hawks. And now they've changed the structure. So like 7 through 10 is like a play-in game. So like if you can't get the number 10 in the East, man, you don't deserve much.
You out here battling the Hornets for a playoff spot. Like, just go home. Just go home. We don't need you.
Like the Knicks, the Knicks gonna be around 25 games, probably maybe only like 2 or 3 games out of the last spot.
They're not gonna be anywhere near 10th.
But I want to ask you about your draft pick, man. Precious. I can't say his last name, man, but it's
Ochoa.
I
don't know.
Precious Ochoa, man. Tell me a little bit about what you know about this guy, man. I'm not gonna lie, man. They was clowning him because his name was Precious. But
listen,
that's neither here nor there.
I did 2 weeks of shows where I said you cannot draft a motherfucker. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can curse on your show.
It's all good, man.
I did 2 weeks of shows where you can't draft a dude named Precious, and I literally had a 5-minute clip, not 5 minutes, but like 45-second clip where I was just saying, like, because I was like, if you're a Heat player, you're okay. Let's say you're Mo Harkless.
Yeah,
you're leaving the arena. Or you're leaving the hotel and you guys are going to go into, to a restaurant, and you step out the hotel and you're like, hey, Precious, hey, Precious, like, you can't do that.
You can't do that, dog.
No, hey, Precious, people are going to think you're screaming after a stripper or something. Like, I said you can't draft that guy because you can't scream like. And how about if you're on the court in the middle of a heated playoff battle, Precious? Yeah. Like, you just can't do that. Like, it's a bad look. I watched the highlight.
He's a big kid from Memphis, power forward. What is he? 6'9", 6'10"?
Oh my! Listen, then I watched the highlights, brother. I'm like, I don't care. Call him Precious. Call him Candy, Chastity. Whatever. I don't care what stripper name you call him. Call him whatever you want. My man can play. All right. I don't care what you call him. All right. I'm calling him. I'm screaming, hey, Precious. Like, I watch him play. And listen, one of my biggest things is none of us know anything about draft picks.
None.
Like, we do this thing every year where we're like, we get all excited about, R.J. Barrett, and and he comes through and he looks like a 1960s basketball player. He looks like he integrated the league or something. Like it's we don't know anything about these draft picks. But Precious, I look at him and he looks in college like a more polished Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's got that NBA body, like they like to say, the NBA body. Like he's a big dude. Like the Precious jokes are good, but you ain't gonna say it to his face.
No, I'm not. Listen,
he's a big dude.
I told Ethan Skolnick, I said I'm not covering games in the arena this year because I said I have too many Precious jokes. I'm not trying to get slapped. Like he can slap.
It's all fun and games when he hit you in the DMs, talk about something. Hey man, was you the one on that podcast?
He could slap my whole beard off, take my whole hairline back. Like I'm not messing with Precious. So but I look at Precious and I say, I don't think he's gonna make an impact day one. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he looks, and Bam has said it himself, Precious is him, just more polished. These guys are both rim runners, both guys that you could trust with the ball on offense, who can defend the rim. The thing is, but they're not your traditional rim defenders. What they do is they don't let people get near the rim, because if they have to switch on a three, they're gonna guard the three on the perimeter. They're not gonna just trail him to the basket, which a lot of bigs do when they do a switch. These guys can stay in front of threes, can stay in front of twos. Like Bam can stay in front of ones. I don't know if Precious can do that yet. Bam can guard Trey, which is some wild stuff. Yeah, I've seen Bam guard Steph. I don't know if Precious can do that. But if Precious is anywhere near that, and you have both of those guys in your front court, like that's a lot of athleticism and strength. So I don't know if it's going to be a big thing this year, but the thing is, because of COVID, Precious might get thrown into the mix early. Because all you need is 2 cases, and now Precious is in your top 10 in your rotation, right? Because Udonis hasn't been playing. We all know that.
We all know what it is.
Yeah, we know that. We know what's happening there. So I'm excited about Precious just because I've seen what they've done with a guy like Bam, and I'm like, damn, bro. Like, if they can have another Bam out, 2 Bams on the floor, and Precious can shoot better than Bam can.
It'd be like the reincarnation of the Davis brothers. And I think when you look at the Davis brothers and the Pacers, more than anything, they brought a mentality. And a lot of these younger teams, a lot of these teams nowadays, they have no mentality, they have no toughness, and it's just like, they don't. I mean, and I'm kind of old school, and I'm like, yo, man, like you can't be letting people push your star player down and stuff like that. Like you got to have some moxie about you. But you get a guy like Bam who's definitely about that action, and you bring out little young Bam. Because the guy we drafted in Atlanta, Onyeka Okongwu. They said he has kind of like a body like a Bam Adebayo too. So those guys are kind of out there now.
Is he Nigerian?
Yeah.
These Nigerians killing the game right now, man.
Hey, they're killing it, man, and they're big too because he's about 6'10" and he's young. And the thing about these kids are still growing.
They're long.
For all intents and purposes, these guys next year are going to be college sophomores.
They're big, they're strong, and the wingspan on these I'm trying not to curse on this show. The wingspan on these dudes, man, it's incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, pressure dude, man, he looks like he's going to be bona fide, man. The fact that you get him at 20, there's not a lot of pressure there. You can kind of play him. There's no he's got to come in and start. So I think he'll be fine.
What I will say about Precious, this is the 3rd year in a row where the Heat picked a guy. They had another guy on their board, right? And this is from what I know of the Heat's mindset. They had another guy on their board, but this guy fell to them, and they had him rated way higher than 20th. They had Bam higher than I think 13th. They had Hero higher than 14th. So this is the 3rd time in a row they've had a guy rated higher than where they picked him, and we've seen how Hero has worked out, right? He's top 60 in the league according to ESPN, which that ESPN list is trash. Yeah. We have Bam Adebayo, who's a max player, and now we got Precious. So I'm very interested to see why they liked him this much. And I've seen him. They've had some practice tape, and he's running around there with Udonis and Bam. And I'm like, damn, bro, this guy is Miami Heat through and through.
That's dope, man. That's dope. They definitely know, and that's you got to give credit to Pat and Spo and all those guys. They understand what they're looking for. They understand the culture. They know what type of player they want to bring in, and that's never faltered. Like that's always been like as long as Pat has been there, like he understands what it is, and I think that's good because I think he's got a good pulse of the city. You know what I'm saying? And when you bring in players that kind of reflect the city, the grit and the grind and all of that stuff. So I think that's a testament to Pat. I want to ask you about we talked a little bit about the starting. I mean, the five guards that you have. Who do you see as your starting five out there for the Miami Heat this year?
Oh, this question. I've gotten this question a lot, man. And I'm like, I have no idea. What I would like to see, I don't know. I really would like to see Avery Bradley out there. Avery Bradley, Duncan Robinson in the backcourt, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Myers Leonard. Because as Myers Leonard didn't get to play a lot in the playoffs, but I'm a big fan of Myers. It's probably a personal bias just because he's like the greatest interview ever.
Yeah,
right. He's like the coolest guy in the whole world.
That'll do it to you. Like when you work in this business and you talk and interact with players, and the guy if he's like super cool, you really go to bat for that dude, man. Like
yeah, Myers is just the best. And then he also was part of one of the most potent offensive starting lineups in the league last year. And then what I think happened, and this is just me watching the game, he got injured. He was never right in the playoffs. He tried his best. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was just like Kelly Olynyk at the beginning of last year. He tried, but he was not himself. Like Myers Leonard looked like he was running with cement Reeboks on. Like he was wearing air concretes. Like he did not even look like himself.
Them old Patrick Ewing joints. They used to
make. Yeah. The Barclays from Payless.
Yeah,
like, he had no cushion. They didn't even come with an insole. Like, he looked terrible. I'm like, he just wasn't right. He wasn't himself. So yeah. I envision a healthy Myers Leonard next to Bam as a very potent duo because Myers can he's a really good defensive rebounder. He shoots the ball well from three. He said he's all summer he's been working on his release, and that's the thing with Myers. Like he just needs to shoot the ball quicker. I want Avery Bradley out there to make up for the Duncan Robinsons of the world that are just not quick defensively, and you need somebody who can cover guards. And I think that's a great way to start the game, but it's about who finishes. And Tyler Hero is a closer. We've seen it. Like. He's a closer on the Miami Heat.
I think more than anything this year, coaching is really going to be at a premium. You know, because like we talk about starting fives, and a lot of people I've gotten to a lot of discussions in Hawks Twitter about, who's going to be starting, and do you start Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, Guy Lunari, paying him all this money? I'm like, it doesn't really matter who's starting. In this season, you better hope this dude keeps his hand washed and keeps that mask on.
That's it, man. Keep people healthy.
That is really like what is going to be the existence of this season. Who can stay healthy? You know,
you guys don't have you guys don't have the problem of the short off season.
Yeah, and I was about to ask you that. You guys, 60-something days, I think, because we had talked to
71.
Yeah. Like, and they were talking about it in practice. So, like, in Atlanta, them guys ain't played for like 9 months. And so they're going hard in practice. And coach is like, hey, man, y'all got to slow down, because, they're going to be sore for the preseason game, whatever. And Solomon Hill, Rondo looking over like, hey, man, it's only been 2 months for us. So
we just stopped playing basketball.
Like yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that shortened off season could be a hindrance or a help? Because nowadays we're looking at different athletes nowadays. Nowadays, this guys stay in shape pretty much all year round. Do you think it's going to be an issue, non-issue? What do you think about the shortened off season?
I think it's going to be a hindrance because the guys that are going to need the rest are going to be Goran Dragic, who you need, who's essential to the team, and Jimmy Butler. Like you can't just keep running this guy into the ground, even though he probably is going to be the first one to want to be run down into the ground like he wants to play. And then also, if that was just the case, if it was just those two guys, I could trust that the Heat could maintain a nice record into like late January, where these guys can get some rest. But the problem is Bam Adebayo is coming off of injury, and that's your young guy. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn. Mo Harkless hasn't played that much. Avery Bradley took the whole bubble off. Like I think you're going to have some guys out there that can play. What I really hope is that, it's hard as a fan, and it's going to be hard for the Heat because they take every single game seriously.
Yeah.
I would hope that they look at the situation and say, I don't care what's going on. Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic need to rest.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see.
Good luck. Good luck, Jimmy. You're going to get the night off. And because Jimmy doesn't understand that. Like, Jimmy does not understand that language of my body needs a rest. Like,
he might stab Eric Spoelstra. Like, he might kill him in his sleep. Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
That's why you have UD on the team. Because, like, I can imagine Spo coming up the UD be like, hey, man, we got to rest Jimmy. Why don't you go over there and tell him?
Yeah. Because that's probably and that's why they keep him on the roster. Because that's the only guy who could probably tell Jim. Could you imagine Precious Achiuwa going to Jimmy? Hey, can you take the night off? I'll start for you. Like, Jimmy will punch him in his neck.
Looking around the East, man, just as we kind of look at the East as a whole, who's a team that you think got better this year? Aside from taking the Heat out of the consideration, who's a team that you looked at like, okay, they might make some moves?
I think the Hawks got better. Charlotte got better, but I don't know significantly enough. I think Philadelphia has some addition by subtraction. I just don't trust their two stars to make it work. Washington, to me, got worse. Indiana is going to get better just by virtue of having Sabonis back. Sabonis is I believe, one of the most underrated players in the entire league. Like, I watch Bam Adebayo every single day, and I still say nobody sets a better screen than Sabonis. Like, he's the best screen setter in the NBA.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
No, go ahead.
I have always liked the Sabonis kid. Like, when he was coming out, I was like, yo, man, I really like this Sabonis kid, man. So I'm with you on the Sabonis train, man. I like Sabonis, man.
No, he sets the best screens in the NBA. And this is as someone who sits here and watches Bam Adebayo set, does dribble handoffs and set screens all day. And he's one of the best assist big men in the league. Sabonis is better, and that it's hard for me to say. It hurts me. Like I got choked up a little bit just saying it. So I think Indiana, just by virtue of getting some of their guys healthy, is going to get better. I don't see Boston has got. I think Boston's the same. I think the Raptors got worse. But I trust Nick Nurse to make whatever they have work. Yeah, like, I think I have so much respect for Nick Nurse.
Me too.
I
like Hoosiers 2.0.
Yeah,
it's like just give him 12 guys that love the game of basketball, and he'll make it work.
I love like OG Anunoby. I think they're gonna make it work. Like, I have them as third in the East and the Celtics fourth. Just because I hate Brad Stevens. I think he's so overrated. Nick Nurse is a better coach. But then Brooklyn, of course. I mean,
like, they're the wild card. Like, I have no idea what Brooklyn's going to be. Like, I have no idea what they're going to be. Like, I hope that we can get a full season out of KD because I love the game and the game is better when he's playing. But I have no idea. And then if they manage to get James Harden as well, even though I don't think he's going to go to Brooklyn. I think he's going to end up in Philly, but that's kind of just like my 2 cents. But I have no idea where Brooklyn's going to be this year. No idea.
To me, Brooklyn, and this is something that people have quoted me on this, Brooklyn suffers from the weirdo factor. They got a couple weirdos, bro. Like, you never know. You never know what the weirdos like they got solid. I mean, Kyrie and KD should mean that you're going to be boss level shit. But the problem is you don't have LeBron James checking Kyrie. You have KD checking Kyrie, and KD is a weirdo.
Yeah.
And so is Kyrie.
They're both kind of weird, like in a way. Like, I don't know. They're both just like kind of equally weird. So like, I don't know how it's going to play out when they're together. Like, Kyrie can come in one day and be like, you know what? I don't think we should do X, Y, and Z. And KD be like, you know what, man? You're probably right.
Like, KD's not going to sit here and check Kyrie. Like, hey, bro, you acting out of pocket. Like, KD's going to be like, you know what? You're right. The earth is flat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are two guys that I don't like. I need KD to have a Steph Curry. Yeah. I need Kyrie to have a LeBron James.
Yeah.
Like, I can't have KD with a Kyrie and a Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, I can't. Like, it's just there's too much nut shit going on in Brooklyn. Yeah. Like, there has to be somebody grounded over there. Like, and then they got rid of Atkinson. Like, I don't know, like, who's running. Like Steve Nash. He's a soccer player. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of hippie shit going on in Brooklyn, and I can't trust them, man.
I imagine they'll be good, like, because you don't have Kevin Durant on your team and not be a good basketball team.
You know what? I just feel like they it's like if they're the gentrified version of Brooklyn. Like, they brought in Steve Nash and they brought in all these like Hotep black people, like KD. Like they're doing artists and mayonnaise and stuff. Like, it's a weird vibe over there. It might work, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Who knows?
But I prefer Brooklyn when Biggie was running it. That's my thing.
Let me ask you about, and we're about to come to a close, man. I appreciate you for coming on, man. It's been great. The Milwaukee
I'm sorry, I take shows off the rails all the time.
Man, it's good, man. Like, that's what we do, man. Like, that's why I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody wants to hear us just sit here and quote stats and metrics the whole time, man. Like, I don't listen to podcasts like that, and I don't want mine to be like that. Let me ask you a little bit about the Milwaukee Bucks, man. They make the big deal for the holiday kid. So, do you think that they get better with that? Like, I'm kind of a Bledsoe guy. Like, I really like Bledsoe. They get the holiday kid who you could argue is probably maybe a step up. Do you think they got better, or like, do you think they're kind of like in the same boat?
I think they got worse, and I love Drew Holiday. The Heat needed Drew Holiday. So the thing with Drew Holiday is kind of a specialist, right?
Yeah. Like,
Drew Holiday is like, remember when I was telling you, like, the Heat needed a point of attack defender, and there's probably not a better one in the league outside of Patrick Beverly. And nobody wants Patrick Beverly on his team because he's dusty. But if you don't want, and he has no offensive game, but if you want a point of attack defender that you have to respect from the three, like, Drew Holiday is that dude.
Yeah.
The problem is, like, do you trust Drew Holiday to run a high-powered offense? No. So Giannis is still going to have the ball in his hands too much.
Yeah.
Like, and here's the thing with Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. And this is the same thing that happens with James Harden. It happened to LeBron James before he came to the Miami Heat. It happens to great players all the time. Damian Lillard is experiencing a little bit of this. It happened to KD with the Thunder a little bit. When you are a one-dimensional offensive team, you can go through and you have you've had a great offensive player like a Giannis, like a James Harden, like a LeBron James. You can go through that regular season, right? Yeah. Because they don't have time to game plan for you. Like, it's Wednesday night. All right, brother, just do your thing.
Yeah.
Now you got to play Giannis seven at a 7-game series. I'm just gonna stop Giannis.
Yeah.
Beat me, Chris Middleton. You know what I'm saying? Beat me, Eric Bledsoe. Beat me, Malcolm Brogdon. Beat me, Mo Williams. Beat me, Anton James. You know what I'm saying? Like, beat me. You can't. Now when it's like, beat me, Dwayne Wade. Oh shit, Dwayne Wade just beat me. Yeah. Beat me, Chris Bosh. Damn. Beat me, Kyrie. You know, when your offense is multifaceted, it's hard to gear up against one guy.
Yeah.
Did the Bucks solve that problem with Jrue Holiday?
I don't think so.
No.
And that's why I kind of prefaced it with like saying, like, did they get better? Like, I think that, I mean, you maybe 1 or 2 games, but like, I mean, but I think at the end of the day, I think they're the same squad. Like, let me ask you this. Like, if you guys were going into a 7-game series, let's say for whatever reason you guys met up in the first round and you had to go 7 games, like, would you feel pretty confident that you guys could beat them again or what?
Beat me, Jrue Holiday.
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Until you can, you know, yeah. Yeah.
Until I'm saying beat me, Chris Paul, shit. Now you understand? Like, there's a whole different feeling. Like, even if you're going up against, like, if you're going up against the Raptors, right?
Yeah.
And it's the Raptors of DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, and you shut down DeMar DeRozan, and you're like, beat me, Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry did that to the Heat.
Yeah.
Like, he beat them. But, like, ain't nobody afraid of Chris Middleton.
Nah.
Nobody shook off of Jrue Holiday.
Yeah.
Like, beat me. Y'all go ahead and beat me. You know what I mean?
I think that, and I want to ask you just 2 more questions and we'll shut it down. I want to ask you, and again, this is me being old school. Like, when you think about the Bulls era, when you think about the Bulls and everything that they had, Jordan didn't really get taken off until Pippen took that next step. You know, we talk about that, and I don't know what your age is, but I remember watching the Lakers series with
I cried that series. The Lakers. I grew up as a Laker fan. Magic Johnson, my favorite player of all time.
Yeah, but remember the story of that series was Pippen's defense on Magic. They were
Shut
like,
him
oh,
down.
he has long arms. He can look Magic eye to eye because he's 6'7", 6'8". It wasn't until Pippen stepped up that Mike was able to get to that second level. And I think that's the same thing for Milwaukee. It's not until those secondary guys step up that Giannis is going to be able to reap the fruits of where he wants to go. We got a question in the chat real quick. Shout out to my guy, Bob. He said, hey, Alf, the Heat paid Bam superstar money. Is he that guy?
He is 1,000% that guy. Okay. So I'm first, I'm going to go back to your first point about Milwaukee. They haven't gotten their Pippen yet. And the problem is, unless you draft Pippen in Milwaukee, now they're too good to draft Pippen, and they don't draft well, right? Yeah. Remember, Pippen is not, Pippen's not a top 5 draft pick, but they don't draft well enough to draft the next Pippen. They keep thinking Chris Middleton or Malcolm Brogdon's Pippen, and they're wrong.
Yeah.
Giannis is going to have to leave Milwaukee to find his Pippen, or he's going to have to go be Pippen to somebody else's Jordan. It's just like LeBron. LeBron had to go to Wade, right? He's going to have to leave. Small market teams like that, unless they draft spectacularly well, they're just unless they're San Antonio, it's just never going to happen. Now, when you talk about Bam, is he worth superstar money? Yes, because in today's NBA, I challenge you to find 3 centers that you'd rather have starting for your team than Bam Adebayo.
This is true.
Guard 1, I'm not talking about guard 3 through 5, because there's a lot of those guys that can guard 3 through 5, guard 1 through 5, right? And also be a hub for you on offense. Grab a defensive rebound, bring it down on the break, make good decisions, or finish himself. There's like those guys. Just give me the guys that can do that.
Yeah, he's special, man. I remember when they came to Atlanta and I saw him, I was just like, am I watching a created player? I felt like he was in such good shape. And now, granted, this was the time of year when the Hawks bigs were who are bigs? Damian Jones, like Jabari, like they had some trash out there. But still, my man was eating like it was just like you knew he was bona fide. Like, yeah, I echo your sentiment to me. He's definitely worth the money, man. Definitely worth.
But here's the thing. It's like the Jason Tatum play. Jason Tatum gets by Jimmy Butler. My man comes over, rotates, blocks Jason Tatum, takes it out of his hand on a dunk, gets the rebound, and he's ready to bring the ball up. There are not that many other guys that I don't know the other guys. Cat?
Yeah, I don't know.
But wait, can Cat guard 1 through 5?
Cat's just a 3-point specialist, man. That's what Cat is at this stage in the game. He's a 3-point specialist, man.
What I think in Spanish they call Cat Grande Parnada or something like that, like big for nothing.
Hey, ask Jimmy Butler what he thinks about Cat, man.
I've heard, and Udonis Haslam had a quote about Jimmy Butler. He said, "You put a dog in a kennel full of cats. What do you think is going to happen?" And that was right after he left Minnesota. So
hey, it is what it is, man. Again, man, I appreciate you for coming on, man. I'm gonna get you out of here in this, man. A 72-game season, man. Give me a roundabout, kind of a ballpark figure of win total for the Miami Heat this year.
Oh, I hate predictions, man. I'm gonna tell you, I hate predictions. Predictions are just like I just feel like it's like it's so much cop out because like you can pretend you never said it, then you can couch it later. But I'll say 43. Okay. 43 wins. Because a 72-game season, I'm not, and also I just don't know what's going to happen with COVID.
Yeah,
I think in a regular season, I'd probably say that's a 52-win, 53-win team. But because of COVID, because of the shortened season, I'll say 43, and I think I feel good about that.
That's fair. Well, my man, I appreciate you for coming on, man. I got to have you on again, man. This was fun. Maybe when the Hawks and Heat link up, I'll have you on again. But let the folks know where they can catch you and your podcast and everything, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, man. Anytime. Catch me on 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Catch me. Check out Light Skinned Opinions. That's big. Like, I want people to check out that show. That's my passion project. That's what I really love. I love talking about the Miami Heat, but I really like talking about our culture, our people, politics and all that good stuff. Light Skin Opinions. You look for Light Skin Opinions or LSO Podcast on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. You can find us on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, everywhere you look. Check out Light Skin Opinions. Like, I guarantee, unless you are MAGA, you'll probably love our show. And if you're MAGA, you still might enjoy it just because you like a good joke. Well, I appreciate it, my guy. And you guys know where to find us, man, at Hawksbeat on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us and make sure you check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast for the free. I'm your host, E-Dub. This has been Hawksbeat Podcast, the Miami Heat preview. Catch us tomorrow. So I think we're doing the Charlotte Hornets tomorrow and the Orlando Magic on Friday. So we got a full week this week. And we appreciate you guys. We'll see you when we see you. And that's it, man. Peace and love. Deuces.